ongoing problem with gophers here on the Central Coast, and because of that, we wanted to bring in Dr. Joel Conn from the Pismo Beach Veterinary Clinic here with this week's Ask the Vet to talk about the issue of gophers and the toxicity related to, gopher control devices and how that might be dangerous to pets. So,
right, and
what
this
kind of an issue is it?
Yeah, this is something we see. Fortunately, gopher bait toxicity is not as common as some of the other things that we see, but the problem is that when you're using a toxic bait to kill rodents, squirrels, gophers, rats, there's always a risk that your pet could get into that, your dog or your cat. And so gopher bait specifically contains strychnine in most cases. And strychnine is a pretty, as you might imagine, pretty nasty drug. Definitely fatal even in small quantities. And the problem we see with most owners that present with a dog that has a toxicity is that almost every case that toxin was out of reach, quote unquote out of reach. Either stored up on a high shelf, or buried in a gopher tunnel, or stored away, locked away, where theoretically the dog or cat could not get to it. The problem is that gophers, rats, rodents can pretty much go wherever they want, right? So if they consume the bait and then they get out and they die in an area that's open to the dog or the cat, and then the dog or the cat eats that rodent, they can get the same effect as if they consume the bait directly.
Or how about the gopher like pushing up the dirt, as we see here in this video, those infamous gopher mounds, and exposing some of that bait right there.
Exactly.
Is that also?
Yeah, and the thing is, it doesn't take very much.
Yeah.
Gopher bait is really nasty. Signs can occur within 20 to 30 minutes, and they typically involve convulsions, severe generalized tremors, and dogs and cats that consume this, and it usually tends to be dogs for whatever reason, will develop this very characteristic sawhorse stance where their limbs are held in rigid extension. In many cases, they can't stand up. By the time they get to that point, of course, they're in pretty bad shape.
And I know we have a photo of that exact scenario happening here, and this is a dog that you treated?
This is a dog we treated. We see maybe one of these cases a year, so not super common, but they're really, really ugly. You can see this dog is alive. It's in. It has this really rigid stance. It was probably standing somewhat before it got to this point, and they would kind of have that posture. In these cases, death can occur within 1 to 2 hours if they're not treated. Fortunately, this dog was brought in almost immediately. We pumped the stomach, which requires anesthesia, and then basically it's supportive care. It's anticonvulsants, fluid therapy. There's not a specific antidote for it. It's just basically trying to get that toxin out of the system as quickly as we can. So you want to, if you think there's any chance of exposure, you come home and you find that package of bait nibbled on or something like that, seek veterinary care immediately. And the thing is, if you don't know which animal that got into it, we have to treat them all as if they got into it. And so we see this a lot actually with rat bait. We probably see a case a month with that because it tends to be a little more common, and it's more accessible in many cases, used in houses and such. And so our recommendation would be to not use bait if you have pets, to try to use either live traps or some other form of capturing that rodent.
Okay, well, we certainly hope that this will help out anybody, and we can avoid any dog or any other pet from having this problem. So Dr. Joel Conn, Pismo Beach Veterinary Clinic there. You can always contact them at askthevet@kcoy.com. We'll see you again with your next segment in 2 weeks.
Good to see you.
We're going to be right back here in a couple of minutes with Cassandra Jones and your Monday forecast. Stay with us.